On our 3-on-3 of the following teams currently in the playoff standings below the Blazers. You've got the Spurs, the Thunder, the Jazz, the Timberwolves, Pelicans. Which would be the best playoff matchup for the Blazers in the first round, and which would be the worst?
I think we probably all picked the Thunder for the best playoff matchup. I mean, I think that when you look at them going 4-0 against the Thunder this year,
proof is in the pudding, man.
It's hard to argue against that. I looked at how they've performed against all those teams this season, and they, obviously the Thunder is the best matchup for them because the Thunder were unable to stop them. Portland averaged about 110 points per game against them. They played good defense against the Thunder. They shot well against the Thunder. So they've done everything well against the Thunder in all 4 games. Yeah. The other team that surprisingly, they've done well against, not as well, but they played well against both the Timberwolves and the Pelicans. They split the season series with both of those teams. They scored well against both those teams. They did not defend well against those teams. So I think that if you played either the Timberwolves or the Pelicans, even if Jimmy Butler came back, for the Timberwolves, which I think he will, I think those would be very competitive, high-scoring series. It would be a lot of fun, probably go 7 games. I'd give the Blazers a slight edge in those if they get home court advantage. I think the worst opponent for them would be the Jazz, and I don't think it's close. Oh. They have averaged 87 points a game against the Jazz. That Jazz defense is just filthy.
Gobert clogging up the lane, man.
He's so good, and they're a very well coached team. They played great in the second half. They've scored pretty well against the Blazers. For the Jazz, they've scored about 103 points per game, and the Blazers are 1-2 against them. The Blazers don't shoot well against them. I think that for me, the Jazz would be the most difficult matchup for them.
I think it's interesting we all now say the Thunder is the best matchup for the Blazers, considering we all picked against the Blazers in most of the matchups against the Thunder going into
I'll admit that
throughout the season. But I agree that the Thunder is the best matchup. And to me, it's because in the playoffs, it comes down to those final minutes so often. Yeah. And the Thunder, of teams currently in the playoff picture or currently in the playoffs, in clutch minutes, they have the worst record in close games compared to all the other teams in the postseason. The Blazers are pretty good. They're 6th in the NBA, 25-18. The Thunder, where are they? They rank 17th in the NBA, which is worst amongst the Western Conference playoff teams. They're 23-22 in close games down the stretch. And I think we've seen that in these Blazers-Thunder games because they've all been close, and the Blazers have had either C.J. McCollum or Damian Lillard close the door at the end in most of the matchups, while the Thunder, they have 3 pretty good players, but they don't seem to know who needs to take over and close out at the end of the game. And I think in a 7-game series, that's a huge advantage for the Blazers. And as we've said, the Thunder haven't done anything offensively against the Blazers. As you said, the Blazers have played great defensively. The team I think they would struggle the most against, I'm not going to go with the Jazz. I'm going to go with Minnesota under the assumption Jimmy Butler is back. Those first 2 games when they played the Timberwolves, first one, the Blazers had it. They played extremely well, yet Jamal Crawford came off the bench and beat them. The second game, Minnesota dominated. Yeah. And then the other 2 games I'm going to throw out because of the fact Jimmy Butler wasn't playing. Minnesota was clear-cut the 3rd best team in the Western Conference before he got hurt. Now they're just trying to stay afloat and get into the postseason for him to return. And to me, that is a dangerous offensive team in a 7-game series.
It's like you read my answer, man.
When you got Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Jeff Teague. I know he has a little bit of a knee injury right now, but I'm sure he'll be plenty fine for the postseason. In a 7-game series, that's going to be tough to stop if you're the Blazers. So that's why I think Minnesota would be the team the Blazers don't want to see most in the postseason.
I want to hear what Orlando has to say, but then I want to come back to Minnesota.
I'm not going to water it down too much because you and I have very similar answers. Verbatim here, if he's healthy, Minnesota is a different squad, a lethal starting lineup. I even used the word dangerous, underseeded. I just think that they're a different team when they have Jimmy Butler out there. They will be a team to be reckoned with. I would not want anything to do with Minnesota. On the flip side, the only fun thing that I will add to OKC, I'm rooting for that matchup because of how chippy the last game got. Yeah. I think that they're starting to build that rivalry that these 2 teams have something against each other. So I think from an entertainment value, having OKC versus the Blazers, I think would be a lot of fun.
I don't think any of the matchups will be easy.
No.
Even the Thunder, who the Blazers have handled this season, I still think they could surprise in the playoffs. Yeah. With Minnesota, my thinking on them is, one, we don't know if Jimmy Butler's going to be 100%. You know, he might be coming back too early. We don't know. Also, it's difficult sometimes, even with the star player, to integrate them back into the lineup when they've been out for that long. Yeah. And if he doesn't come back until the playoffs start, they might have a little bit of difficulty, you know, making that work, you know, with rotations and stuff like that. Also, they're very inexperienced. Most of their players haven't been in the playoffs at all. And I think that
even
the Blazers have some playoff experience. And so I think that would, you know, play into the Blazers' favor as well.
14 years for the Timberwolves.
Yeah. And those are all 100% fair concerns. But, you know, in terms of experience, Jimmy Butler's got playoff experience. You know, he's arguably their best offensive player. He was their best scorer in terms of points during the regular season. He's their best defensive guard / forward easily. So I think he brings a lot back to the table, even if he's not scoring.
Oh, yeah, defensively?
I think he brings a lot to him. But I'm not going to argue that the Jazz wouldn't be a handful if the Blazers got them as well.
Max has something to say.
I just want to say tomorrow, Thursday night, Timberwolves in Denver.
And then
huge game.
And then again on Wednesday next week, except for the other way.
Where are the Timberwolves right now? Are they 8?
They're 7.
They're 7.
They are 7.
They're 7.
And the Nuggets are 9.
And the Nuggets are 9.
A game and a half back of Minnesota.
I think they're just are they a game and a half or a game back?
Well, currently, as we talk, they're a game and a half back.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's all sorts of matchups like that in the final week. It's going to be a ton of fun, and hopefully, you know, the Blazers can do a little bit of something here in the last week of the regular season.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Hey, even Vegas agrees with you. You know, Bovada had put out their odds. Isaac Ropp had tweeted that out, that the only team not to be favored in that first round for the Blazers would be the Utah Jazz.
Yep. Yeah. They scare me because of their defense. I think they're the kind of defense that could shut down Damian and CJ, and if you take them out of their game, then the Blazers aren't very good.